Good morning, everyone. Um, I bring greetings from Nagpur Ubijaya Society along with Omega Hospital and a team of directors of Omega Hospital, Amox and Maharashtra SR, where I am working as a committee member. And I feel coming at home. This is my second home because Akola is my birthplace. So I always feel like coming to Akola, and so many friends are there at Akola. Special thanks to Deepali, Arun, Rajesh, Mukesh, Shyam, Jhelam and team Akola for giving me this wonderful opportunity to moderate this session. So we have who's who in the field of infertility. So welcome on board all the panelists with a big round of applause to all the panelists. So they are already introduced and it is 10:02. And Mukesh, we are following this time. So we'll start and we'll go very fast because we have to finish a topic which will take a whole day in 1 hour. So I start with this guidelines which are actually what we are discussing today right from the morning. So come September 2023 and the PCO guidelines, they came as more vibrant, more colorful and more robust guidelines with Professor Helena Tede in charge of the guidelines, and I got an opportunity to listen to her in 2018 Barcelona conference, and she is very clear in her understanding of PCOS, and she was leading the team in 2018 as well, and now in 2023 guidelines also she is leading the team, and we have a PCOS Society of India as a part of these guidelines. So we are happy and proud that we are also a part of these guidelines. I'll start with the story of Dr. Priya. Dr. Priya is a young doctor in her late 20s and she did her fellowship in ART and decided to set up a new clinic. She gets a classical case of PCO, flash diagnosis, BMI 36, acanthosis nigricans, anovulations, married since 5 years, eager to conceive. Basic investigations done, letrozole started with time intercourse, patient conceives in first cycle and there is a twin pregnancy. This is the happy end of the story, and Dr. Priya is wondering why her guide used to say that PCOS is very difficult to manage. So friends, Priya is in the honeymoon period of her clinical practice. When you start your clinical practice, initially you get so many good responses that you are very happy, and then you start thinking that अपने guide को कुछ समझता नहीं था. But 5 साल बाद क्या होता है? Dr. Priya is frustrated and she says that PCOS is the most difficult nut to crack, and she has again started respecting her guide. So ये है कहानी घर घर की, और तोल मोल के बोल क्या है? Please respect your teachers and please respect your guide. So PCO is anovulation and anovulation means PCO. We start with the first case, and this is a case of Yasmin. Yasmin is only 25 years. She is very young. She is married since 3 months. Her BMI is 30. Her waist to hip ratio is 1.2 and she belongs to classical phenotype A of PCO. She is on Yasmin, which is a OC pill, since last 2 years. So we were discussing about this, but she was taking Yasmin since last 2 years for irregular cycles, which is actually wrong. She is now eager to conceive. What is your approach and how do you start? So my first question is to Gauri. When to start the treatment? Basic question, but when to start treatment? Because during our college days, we were taught that 1 year of unprotected intercourse is infertility. So in case of Yasmin, will you ask her to come after 1 year or will you start treatment immediately?
So one thing that we see from her history, she already has a high BMI. She has been on OC pills and she wants to conceive. Now, once that anxiety issue comes in again, that is something which we need to also consider. So for her, the first line of treatment that I would start is lifestyle, where she starts losing weight.
So I think specific question, will you start treatment or you will ask her to come after 1 year?
If you consider lifestyle as treatment, yes, I will start treatment.
Yes, I think what is important is, though definition says 1 year, Yasmin knows that she is a case of PCO. She knows that there is some problem. She is anxious and that's why she has come to you immediately after marriage. So you have to respect her sentiments, her feelings, and start treatment immediately. And as Gauri has rightly said, it has to be with the lifestyle. Now, another question to Anita. A very specific question. Will you start investigations immediately, or you will do investigation after some time? Because she has come for infertility, the first thing you do is do ultrasound, and the next thing you do is investigations. And you can say कि मुझे आज शाम तक रिपोर्ट चाहिए, मुझे देखना है कि तेरा AMH कितना है, मुझे देखना है तेरा FSH कितना है, LH कितना है, और मुझे डायग्नोसिस करना है कि सही में तो PCO है कि नहीं है. So will you do investigations immediately?
See, this patient will need a hormonal investigation and a biochemical to understand her insulin resistance state and her biochemistry.
Right.
So, hormonal investigation, I would definitely wait because she has been on Yasmin since 2 years.
Yes.
So, all that excess is changed. So, we'll not get the right reports of FSH, LH, or any of the
Exactly.
hormonal parameters. And in the meantime, to advise her on a lifestyle modification and a weight changes, I would definitely go for a fasting levels of blood sugar, lipid profile, and
Absolutely.
other metabolic
So
profile.
what Anita says, take home message very clear and loud, that do metabolic investigations but do not do hormonal investigations, because patient is already having HPO axis which is suppressed, and so you have to wait for at least, so the guidelines say that you should wait for 3 months, stop OCPS, wait for 3 months, and then only start the investigations, but utilize this time for lifestyle modification. And now the next question is to Rajeshri. Rajeshri, what is your opinion about lifestyle modification? How do you counsel patients regarding lifestyle modification, and what do you tell them?
Sabha, lifestyle modification is very easy to tell but very difficult to tell.
Absolutely.
What is exactly lifestyle modification? So it depends upon the person to person. So we have to take care of, it has to be individualization. The first thing I would like to advise in this case is weight loss, because her BMI is 30. So she can, so diet advice, then exercise advice linked to them. And what is her, what job she is doing, what are the requirements she is having. So it has to be individualized, the package has to be individualized for us.
Exactly. So how much weight reduction you will advise her?
At
Will
least
you say that
10%
जा
of-
20 किलो वजन कम करके आप बाद में मिलते हैं, or you will say how much weight reduction you expect from her?
I will tell them at least 10%.
10%. So Rajesh says 10%, books say or guidelines say 5%. So at least 5% weight reduction, 10% is fairly good. But then what is important is you have to be very sensitive while talking to her. Because if you say, अरे कितनी मोटी दिख रही है, कैसी हो गई तेरे को, तो मैं बचपन से देख रहा हूँ, अभी कितना वजन बढ़ गया. So immediately she will have that, so you have to take care of her feelings also. She has feelings too. So you have to be very careful, and you have to have empathy towards your patients. Otherwise, if you say a wrong word, and she will actually go into depression, and she may gain weight because of depression, because depression is one of the causes of weight gain. So you have to be very careful. Now the next question is to Shalaka. Shalaka, what is SMART approach?
Smart approach means we should, whatever we are saying to the patient should be specific, it should be measurable, and it should be achievable by the patient, and we should have realistic expectations from the patient, and given in a timely manner.
Yes.
We can say in vague fashion to the patient ki
So
do the
be
weight
very
loss.
so SMART is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So the program should be SMART program, and approach has to be a SMART approach. So you should tell them empathetically that you have to follow this 30 minutes of walk every day, at least 5 days a week, with the muscle vigorous activities and muscle strengthening activities at least twice in a week. So something which specifically you have to tell. And Ujjwala madam is with us. So Ujjwala madam, what do you suggest to your patients, and how do you counsel your patients regarding weight reduction?
Over a period of time, weight reduction, there are 2-3 things which I give my whole credit to Joshi madam, who had taught us in our PCOS conference as to, it's not what you eat, it is how you eat.
Exactly.
So that is important. The quantity of carbs has to be considerably reduced, because if you put them on diet and if you tell them go 5,000 rupees ka shake pilo, wo pilo, that doesn't work. None of those things work. So what works is reduce your carbs. If you are eating 4 rotis, come down to 1, and eat more 2 katoris dal, like he said, measurable, 2 katoris dal, 2 katoris sabzi, and 1 small fulka. Eat rice, but only this much. So don't put them on any dietary restrictions, because then the body rebels and says, I'm not getting to eat. Then that doesn't happen. And with just this simple how to eat, which Joshi had taught us a few years back, that just 2 meals a day, and in the morning breakfast will be only fruits and a cup of buttermilk, so that will give you energy to work till the afternoon, and the yogurt will give you the protein. So that works, and my patients have reduced up to 25 kgs in 5 or 6 months.
I think
only on
what
this.
Ujjwala Madam has said is absolutely right, and I'll narrate a story, share a story with you. Akshay Patra is one NGO who works for the school-going children in India, and the founder of the Akshay Patra is my batchmate, and he came to Nagpur from US, and I had donated some amount to that Akshay Patra NGO, and there was a small program, and there he was stating about the problem with India. खाने को नहीं है, ऐसा नहीं है, वैसा नहीं है. मैं बोला तू यूएस में रहता है, तेरे को पता नहीं यहाँ पे खाने का कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. सो एंड हम खाने को देंगे, यहाँ बच्चे मैरस्मिक रहते हैं, इनको ये रहता है वो रहता है. मतलब यहाँ पे सिर्फ एंड नितिन गडकरी was chief guest, and he also said that there are only 2-3 areas where there is a problem of malnutrition. Otherwise malnutrition is not the problem. The problem is with the right nutrition. एंड सब लोग समोसे खा रहे हैं, सब लोग बर्गर खा रहे हैं, पिज़्ज़ा खा रहे हैं, लाड़की बहन में सब लोग खुश है और किसी को पैसे की कमी नहीं है. व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम इज नॉट विथ द प्रॉब्लम इज व्हाट यू ईट, एंड द राइट डाइट इज समथिंग विच अक्षय पात्र शुड एक्चुअली टेल पीपल, एंड दैट इज व्हाट आई सजेस्टेड देम. दे वर नॉट अवेयर. अभी भी उनको लगता है कि इंडिया में ऐसे भैंस घूमते रहती, गाय घूमते रहती, खाने को पैसा नहीं है, ये नहीं है. बट दे आर नॉट अवेयर ऑफ द प्रोग्रेस विच वी आर डूइंग, and we are actually much well off than even few of the Europeans and US people. So apart from smart approach, Gauri, you are actually very much into guidelines. Do you know that there is something which they have specifically mentioned apart from smart approach as far as lifestyle is concerned? Can you throw light on your knowledge about lifestyle which goes beyond smart approach? Exercise is one thing, but something they have specifically mentioned. Do you know what is that? And if you might be knowing that, but you might have skipped it. Do you remember? Can anybody tell me there is something they have gone beyond smart approach?
The psychological
Yes, psychological factor is always there.
There is something called as eating disorders and
Disordered
eating.
Yes.
That is one thing that we must understand.
Exactly. So
that,
they have talked about
there is
that
a
also.
difference between eating disorders and disordered eating. So necessarily your patient need not have bulimia or anorexia. That is one thing. Second thing is about the lifestyle or exercise pattern. I would just like to add one point about the diet that madam was mentioning. In the last conference that we again had one special session on nutrition, and the very simple thing that the nutritionist told us was, you have a plate, you explain to your patient, you have a plate divided into 4. 1/4 will be your roti and chapati or bhakri or bread or rice. The second will be full of proteins, where you will have pulses and dal, whatever kind of proteins you are taking, whether it is vegetarian or non-vegetarian. The remaining half, again you in fact divide it into, that part into 60-70% will be vegetables, and the last part will be, whatever remains is fruits. So this time you have to all the time draw that plate for your patient and tell her, this is how your plate should look like in every meal. And if that is coming in, then all these nutritional deficiencies that we see, we see so many patients are nutritionally deficient. So that is something which we are going to miss. And one more thing I think which is not in the guideline, Chaitanya, I would like to come up with, is something which we must stress is on the sleep. Sleep
Yes,
is something which
absolutely.
we have totally lost, and
Yes.
sleep pattern and sleep disorders which we see, and especially in adolescents,
Very, very
that
important.
we don't really go into the history. Now if you, in Nasik we did a survey last year when I was a president, we have the average sleeping time of adolescents in our city. Any guesses?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
Exactly.
So this
And
is
they-
something which is
Gauri, they have
disturbing
mentioned
it.
this in guidelines that too much of sitting and screen time.
Screen time.
Screen time is something which is actually disturbing the HPO axis. And what Gauri said is right. रात को 2 बजे तक क्या करते हैं? सब इंस्टा के स्टार है. सब इंस्टा पे रहते हैं और रील्स देखते रहते हैं. So that is the problem, and you have to actually. This is a kind of addiction. And it requires maybe psychotherapy or maybe a psychiatrist help also. So too much of screen time is something which is also creating a problem. Now we go to the next point, and that is phenotypes. We were talking about Yasmin, and we are talking about the classical A type phenotype, which is seen in case of Yasmin. But can anybody tell me? Maybe Anita, you can tell me about the various phenotypes and how do you use this knowledge about phenotypes in your day-to-day clinical practice? That is more important, because you know that there are phenotypes, but how do you utilize them in your day-to-day management is what is more important. So what are the phenotypes which are there in as far as PCO is concerned? Because you have to go beyond the Rotterdam classification.
Yes, actually, why this classification into various phenotypes is just so that we can pick up most of the cases. Some patients may be very glaring at you, like with the severe hyperandrogenism, acanthosis nigricans, classical one, that is phenotype A. Some patients like phenotype B.
It's like a flash diagnosis. The patient comes to the OPD and you know that she is a case of PCO.
She is a case of PCO.
She is phenotype A, right?
Right, phenotype A. But in that case also you need to rule out the secondary causes of PCOS. With those who are glaring phenotype A,
Exactly.
in that case you need to be really vigilant, because I come across a lot of secondary causes of, as an endocrinologist in my practice, I've treated
I think that is very important. Think of hyperandrogenism. think of
hyperandrogenism,
some other
and
cause.
Growth hormone excess, Cushing's disease, these are two important. And third one is a congenital adrenal hyperplasia. This could be the common causes of hyperandrogenism. So as soon as you treat this an acromegaly or a growth hormone excess, which may not be very receptive, all the other clinicians, but as an endocrinologist, when they come to me, I can immediately look at them and think of it. So as soon as you correct them, and they have become pregnant. So
Very
last,
good. So there
that's
are
very important. Second is a phenotype B and a phenotype C and D, where, yes, Dr. Gauri wants to talk about them.
No, you can go ahead.
So I think Rajeshri,
So
Gauri,
phenotype-
you can tell about phenotypes, because phenotypes B is very classical where USG is normal, C is where patients are ovulating, and D is where
It is
the
a
patient
milder
is
form of,
milder form. So it's
syndrome.
a lenient thing. It's kind of lenient. So we come to the next point, and Rajeshri, since it's your turn, I want to ask you one very specific question. We used to talk about LH-FSH ratio. Now we no more talk about LH-FSH ratio. But we all know that LH levels are high in lean and thin PCO and they are low in obese PCO. So what is the reason behind it?
So ovulatory insufficiency dysfunction is more in lean PCO rather than in obese PCO. Obese
Yes.
PCO is more of metabolic.
Right.
So
adipokinase and leptin resistance is actually responsible for inhibiting the GnRH secretions. And since it inhibits the GnRH secretions, the LH levels are low in obese PCO as compared to lean PCO. That is one reason why the LH levels are high in lean PCO. So now you can take this chart and you can talk on this. How do you differentiate between lean PCO and obese PCO? What are the various criteria which you take into consideration while you are comparing lean PCO with obese PCO? Because this was the point which was actually we discussed, that was the last question which we discussed in Gauri and Ujjwala madam's session. So we carry forward this differentiation because this is important in our day-to-day clinical practice.
So in obese PCO, it is more of insulin resistance.
Right.
Metabolic.
So metabolic
insulin
disorders are
resistance is
more common in obese PCO.
So in lean PCO, it is ovulatory dysfunction is more of.
So if you just
common.
look at this chart, you will find that, see, everything is more in obese
in
PCO
obese
and everything is less in lean PCO, except for LH. LH is high, otherwise everything is less in lean PCO. But there is one important point which I would like to stress here is that even in lean PCO, hyperinsulinemia is there. And there was, when I remember, when in 92 we started, our post-graduation, 95 we completed our post-graduation, and then we started clinical practice. We were taught and we were having clear idea in mind that metformin is for obese PCO. So what is, do you differ, or do you think that this is the right approach, that metformin is only for obese PCO? No. So everybody is very clear that it is not. In fact, lean PCO respond very well to metformin. So metformin is not only for obese PCO. It can be given in all kinds of PCO patients. This is the take-home message about the lean and thin PCO and obese PCO. Now the next question is to Shalaka. Shalaka, your criteria for ultrasound. Your criteria, because this is a panel discussion, and in panel discussion we actually take the help of guidelines but discuss what we do in our clinical practice, because that is more important. Otherwise there is, वो किताब से पढ़ के आया, वो रट के पता है, इसको कोई मतलब नहीं है. तुम प्रैक्टिस में क्या करते हो वो ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है. तो आप क्या करते हो? Shalaka, what do you do? What is your criteria for ultrasound in PCO?
We'll see the number of follicles if it is more than 20. Because cross section and everything is not available.
So your criteria is more than 20 follicle number per ovary. FNPO is important, not the combination of right and left ovary. It is the FNPO, follicle number per ovary should be more than 20. And what is your criteria for volume?
Sir, more than 10 ml.
More than 10. Now I will ask you one very specific question. Which machine do you have? Which ultrasound machine? कंपनी का नाम क्या है? उसमें क्या क्या है? 2D है कि 3D है? कलर डॉपलर है? क्या है? TVS है कि नहीं है? कौन सी मशीन आपके पास है?
Sir, I have G
का मशीन है. वॉल्यूशन है?
Yes sir.
वॉल्यूशन है. उसमें 3D है?
लेकिन मैं
नहीं करते, लेकिन है, लेकिन नहीं करते. ठीक है. अभी ये इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन क्यों है? बिकॉज एंड्रोजन एक्सेस PCOS task force has now said that FNPO should be 25. So they are now, day by day the number is increasing. And why this number is increasing is because of the advancement of the machines. I remember when I started my practice in 94, I bought one machine. तो 3.5 लाख की मशीन थी LNT की, और उसका स्क्रीन इतना था, मशीन इतनी बड़ी थी और उसका स्क्रीन इतना छोटा था. उसमें वो सिर्फ कार्डियक एक्टिविटी दिखती थी, बाकी कुछ भी नहीं दिखता था. And now we have at Omega we have 6 machines. Out of this we have E6, we have E8, we have S8, we have this V6 Samsung machine. So we have 6 ultrasound machines, and all are high-end machines. So with 8 megahertz probe, with so much of clarity, you are having a specific function in Voluson, and that is Sono AVC. And this Sono AVC is of two types: Sono AVC follicle and Sono AVC AFC. Sono AVC AFC will give you idea about the number of small antral follicles 2 to 9 millimeter, and they are cutting across the ovary. So they are going across the ovary, sir. They are calculating in 3D actual number of follicles in the ovary, and that number goes to maybe more than 25. And that is the reason why with advancement of machines, the criteria is day by day changing. So with this Sono AVC function or application, you can actually calculate the number of follicles throughout the ovary. That is the beauty of these machines. Now we wait for 3 months, and yes, Gauri.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but one thing, Chaitanya, all of us might not have all those high-end machines that you have.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
I think we can stick to our criteria of 20 follicles till
Exactly.
we get your machines. in hand.
Absolutely. That is why शलाकांनी प्रांजळपणे कबूल केलं की मी 3D करत नाही, आणि मी 3D करत नाही, मी सोनो AVC करत नाही. तिने प्रांजळपणे कबूल केलं. सो दॅट इज व्हॉट इज इम्पॉर्टंट. सो व्हॉट यू डू इज इम्पॉर्टंट. डिपेंडिंग ऑन युअर क्लिनिकल अॅक्युमेंट, यू हॅव टू डिसाइड युअर criteria. Now another very important question is regarding AMH, and now as
Dr. One
Ujjwala,
minute, which
yes.
means what you're trying to say is that if you don't have a high-end machine, it is 20, and if you have a high-end machine, it's 25. Is that what you're trying to say?
Androgen Access PCO Society says 25.
Okay.
So that is the task force of Androgen Access PCO Society which has given the new criteria which is 25. That means they have set the number as 25. But then it is not possible with 2D scan. Absolutely. So now we, Ujjwala Madam, we are now coming to the next point, which is actually a very important point for all of us. It's a practical point about AMH. What is your idea about AMH? Do you do AMH in your clinical practice? How do you correlate AMH with PCOS? when do you do AMH, and what are the guidelines, and what does the new and the latest guidelines say about AMH?
I don't do AMH in my routine clinical
So
practice
actually,
at all.
Ujjwala madam is very clear. We were talking in the morning, and she is not doing AMH. Now there is a class of doctors who believe that AMH is not a very good parameter, and they are absolutely true. There are a few reasons. One is lab to lab variation is very high, and what madam is saying is very true, because there is a lab to lab variation and there is lot of confusion. Some people say that 1.1 to 9.9 is the normal range. Some people say that 3 to 5 is the normal range. So there is lot of variation, and that is the reason why many people do not do AMH. Again, one more point is the cost. Cost factor is also involved, and that therefore many people do not do AMH. Now Gauri, I want you to tell us about the latest criteria for AMH, because this is a revision.
Yeah, so the latest criteria, like we discussed sometime ago, that AMH is not the only test that should be done to diagnose PCOS, because many people, will just say you do AMH and then we'll know whether there is PCOS. It's wrong. It's not to be done like this. It is not a diagnostic test for PCOS. Secondly, age, BMI, timing of menstrual cycle, and like he said, lab variations do occur. If the patient has been on OC pills, then there are a lot of modifying factors, so
Yes.
it should not be actually considered.
So the guidelines very clearly say it should not be a single test, and it should not be done up to the 25 years of age. Now I will tell you the very so see AMH का सफर कैसा रहा. 2018 guidelines, they say that AMH should not be used, but they have said that it is an emerging evidence that AMH is becoming popular, but AMH should not be used. 2018 guidelines. Then came the 2019 guidelines, एक साल के बाद आई. They are regarding ovulation induction, and these guidelines, they say that AMH and see, this is a strong recommendation. AMH and AFC are the two investigations which are alone sufficient to predict the ovarian reserve. So for ovarian reserve testing, AMH and AFC, they have given 100% marks to AMH. Ashwin is with us, so welcome Ashwin. Ashwin is my dada. I am from 86 batch and Ashwin is from 85 batch. So he has taught me everything as far as obstetrics and basic gynecology is concerned. Welcome Ashwin on board. So we were talking about AMH and AFC. So there is a strong recommendation that AMH and AFC together alone are actually the best criteria for ovarian reserve testing and best investigations. And then came the 2023 guidelines. As far as the intercycle and intracycle variability is concerned, there was an understanding, or there was some people used to say that this AMH does not have intercycle and intracycle variability, so you can do AMH anytime during menstrual cycle, and that was actually that was the beauty of AMH. But now the new guidelines have said that they may have impact on the day of hormonal cycle, so it is better to do it on the first 3-4 days of the menstrual, right madam?
Can I add something?
Yes,
In
please.
my clinical practice, there are two places where I did this. One is a 32-year-old patient, PCOS, wanted to postpone her marriage and pregnancy. So I said, do your AMH, because already you have lost a lot of antral follicle count in your last 32 years.
Yes.
If there is less amount, so that's the place I did the
DOR
AMH one.
patients.
And second AMH was done when for pre-operative I always do, because they
Yes.
should not say that we have done anything to the
Very,
ovary.
very
So these are the
important.
two
And
places
then
where I do
if you are doing suppose endometriosis surgery, then you have to document that AMH, how much is the AMH, and you have to counsel the patient that this AMH may go down because of the surgery, because you are handling the ovarian stroma, and that may lead to. And there is one more point, that OC pills, initially it was thought that OC pills does not have impact on AMH and you can do AMH anytime, but now it is said that the hormonal contraception and ovarian surgery, as madam has rightly said, AMH may be suppressed by current or recent OC pill use. So be very clear that even AMH should not be done if the patient is on OC pills. So stop for 3 months, wait for 3 months, stop OC pills, wait for 3 months, and then do AMH. So this is about AMH. Now we have with us endocrinologist Dr. Anita. And Anita, what about metabolic in disorder test? In case of Yasmin, which test you will do? Now she is a case of infertility, so we have to do her other tests as well. So what are the tests which you order or which you advise to the patients?
Glucose tolerance, lipid abnormalities. In a glucose tolerance, we go for a fasting blood sugar and a postprandial fasting blood sugar, and HbA1c is good enough in an indicator. insulin levels for a follow-up may or may not be useful. In a Yasmin, this case, particularly Yasmin, I would still do a fasting insulin level to see if it's a glaring case of a insulin resistance.
Okay.
What changes it has made in counseling, like after 3 months or 6 months, definitely there is a significant
how,
change which will be evident clinical also.
Yes. So that is the importance of panel discussion. She is endocrinologist, right?
Yes.
And she says that I also do serum insulin, fasting insulin, and we, as far as guidelines say that it is
there
said
is
that
no role
there is
of
no role of
insulin
fasting
as
serum
such.
insulin as far as the investigations are concerned. So they say that fasting insulin should not be done, but HbA1c should be done, or fasting post-meal blood sugar should be done. But
OGTT
Anita
is
has
the
said,
most
because she has a clinical experience, she says that in particular situations she is doing serum insulin. So this is how you learn so many things in your panel discussion.
It's not must to
It's
make
not must.
any changes in the treatment,
Right.
but for a follow-up and a counseling, it does help. Or sometimes these patients, they come with these reports of fasting insulin, which can help you to counsel, see your insulin levels are this much, and after treatment we have made that, I mean, you have lost weight, now the insulin resistance also has come down, though it is not mandatory.
Okay, we'll go very fast. Rajeshri,
Yeah.
now we are all set for the treatment. Investigations done. We know that she is a case of PCO. We know that she belongs to phenotype A, and now we have to start her treatment because now 6 months हो गए हैं. Yasmin भी अभी बेकरार हो रही है कि कब मैं माँ बनूँ. अब now will you do tubal testing in this patient before starting ovulation induction? HSG करोगे कि नहीं करोगे?
नहीं करोगे.
नहीं करेंगे. Perfect.
I will give stop OC pills, give 3 months for weight reduction.
Absolutely.
I will ask for because
क्यों
I
नहीं
will
करोगे?
not do tubal.
वो तो सबको पता रहता है ट्यूब टेस्ट करनी है, तो वो यास्मीन तो बोलेगी मेरी ट्यूब टेस्ट क्यों नहीं कर रहे? तो हाउ यू विल कन्विंस हर दैट देयर इज नो नीड ऑफ यू? यस आशु.
As far as the PCOS is concerned, if you look at the PCOS and there is no other infertility factor which is affecting and the semen analysis is normal, there is no obvious need of going for a tubal patency in the first go.
Absolutely. So case of PID, so a case of
Correct.
recurrent abortions, a
Yes.
case of ectopic pregnancy, or something which suggests that tubal patency should be done. Otherwise, there is no role of tubal patency. So, so the principle of ovulation induction are first thing, and I think that is important in PCO patient, is exclude pregnancy, because PCO patients काफी बार pregnancy रहती है और उनको because they are used to having irregular cycles, they don't get menses for 2 months 3 months, so you do UPT first and at least confirm that she is not pregnant before starting ovulation induction. And another thing which is important is you have to go on changing your treatment, because the only thing which is constant in life is change, and this is the principle of treatment of infertility. Anywhere you have to go on changing your treatment, and this is the algorithm which we will be discussing in another 20 minutes now. Ashwin, what is your drug of choice for ovulation induction? Oral ovulation.
In any case of PCOS, let alone this who is of phenotype A,
Any
even
case
the
of
other
PCOS.
type of PCOS, my drug of choice would be letrozole.
उसमें no बकवास, सीधी बात.
Yes.
Letrozole is the drug of choice. There is no role of clomiphene citrate. And Ashwin, we have gone through these phases of CC, letrozole, CC,
exactly.
letrozole,
Letrozole.
because there was one, we all remember this, 2011-12, letrozole was banned in
Yes.
India. So there was no letrozole available at all. So we again switched on to CC. Then again the letrozole was back in action, and now we are happy. But what is the advantage and why you say that letrozole should be used?
Letrozole, in my view, is superior to clomiphene citrate, particularly in cases of PCOS. That is mainly because of its monofollicular development, which we get with
Absolutely.
letrozole. There is a risk of multiple follicular development with clomiphene citrate, and eventually risk of ovarian hyperstimulation also in very small percentage of cases, even with the oral dose of 50 milligram or 100 milligram, and the risk of the multiple pregnancy also makes it
Perfectly. So letrozole एक, फायदे अनेक. There is no controversy in this. Now I would like to ask Ashwin, you can answer this question because you came late, so you got less chance. So I'll ask you again one more question regarding the letrozole protocols. I mean, if the patient comes to you, you will start with the standard protocol, which we all know, 2.5 milligram BD for 5 days.
Yes.
So now your clinical approach. Suppose you first cycle you do letrozole standard protocol cycle, and you are not getting the desirable ovulation. What is your next step, and what are the various protocols which are there available, and how do you use them, and when do you use them?
Okay. So initially we start with 5 milligram per day for 3 days. Usually it is either from day 2 to day 6 or day 3 to day 7. But if there is no follicular development with this dose, we can go on increasing the dose also. Instead of 5 milligram, you can go on increasing it to 7.5. I have increased it to even 10 milligram per day.
So step
You
up
can-
protocol.
Yes, and you can extend the number of days also. You can,
Yes.
instead of day 3, you can start it from day 2 and continue it till day 10. In some of the cases, I have observed that with 7.5 milligram, if I give from day 3 to day 7 and do a scan on the 8th day and the follicular development is still not there, again continue it for 2 to 3 days or maybe 3 to 4 days and then see if there is enough follicular development, you can add
See
this.
how nicely Ashwin is explaining about his approach. He has immediately told us about all the protocols. First, he talked about conventional protocol, then he talked about step-up protocol, then he talked about the extended protocol, and then he's now talking about the long protocol. So these are all the protocols, and you should have that clinical acumen to use all the protocols in your clinical practice. Now, I have a question which is very, very important, and that question goes to Ujjwala. No, Ujjwala madam, no, Adi, Shalaka. Shalaka, you have this question that CC resistance and CC failures. Have you experienced letrozole resistance in your clinical practice?
Yes,
And what do you do when you experience a letrozole resistance? Because we will not talk about CC now. CC is RIP CC. CC is gone. So the next thing is, of course, letrozole. So letrozole resistance, what do you do?
Sir, if there is letrozole resistance, then low dose HMG can be given.
Exactly, HMG can be given. But see how nicely our flow of discussion is going in such a nice way. She has rightly said, Shalaka, that she can add HMG. Very apt and appropriate answer. But I want to ask you a very specific question. What in between HMG and letrozole? What is there in between HMG and letrozole? Yes. What is that? Yes, Rajashri.
We can add metformin
Yes.
along with that, or in small risk we can add dexamethasone.
So we are talking
Inositol
about,
minus
so
ethanol.
she has started talking about adjuvants now.
Adjuvants.
And there are so many adjuvants which are available in market. And she has rightly said that metformin can be added. So adjuvants का hero कौन है?
I metformin.
बेशक मेटफॉर्मिन है, बेशक मेटफॉर्मिन. एडजुवेंट्स का हीरो मेटफॉर्मिन है. मेटफॉर्मिन को कोई रिप्लेस नहीं करता, कोई माइका लाल मेटफॉर्मिन को अपनी जगह से हिला नहीं सकता. लेकिन मेटफॉर्मिन के साथ बाकी भी काफ़ी चीज़ें. नाउ वी विल डिस्कस अबाउट मेटफॉर्मिन. राजश्री, व्हाट इज योर डोजेज विच यू स्टार्ट विथ एंड हाउ डू यू गो अहेड विद द मेटफॉर्मिन?
I'll start with 500 milligram per day and increase weekly frequency 500 milligram twice or extended release 500 SR.
Okay, Shalaka,
Extended.
do you give this alone as an ovulation induction? Very important question. Alone as an ovulation induction agent?
No, sir, I have not.
No. So the answer is no. Alone, metformin is not a ovulation induction agent, but in combination it works. Now, Ashwin, duration and time. How much is the duration?
For the metformin?
Yes.
Okay. If the patient has been started on metformin for impaired glucose tolerance, where she has responded in a positive way to the oral GTT, then I would like to continue it till even when the patient gets pregnant. But if for the only indication of failure with letrozole, we have started metformin, then I don't think that there is an indication to continue once the pregnancy is achieved.
Specific answer and the right answer, because guidelines say that you should not continue metformin during pregnancy if the indication for metformin is not diabetes or the sugar disorder or the metabolic disorder. So Anita, do you agree with us?
Yes, I tell them sometimes even on metformin they conceive. So as soon as you miss your period and your UPT is positive, stop this.
You
if there
ask
is
them to
no-
stop.
Yes.
And then you do a sugar test, and if it is
By
positive,
that time they approach a gynecologist or come back to me. These are my instructions to our patients before when I
very
put them on metformin.
So Anita is endocrinologist and she has given a very important take-home message that stop metformin once the patient conceives and then reconsider it if it is required, if there is a gestational diabetes, of course.
Yeah, that we all will look into the matter once the patient comes to us.
Now, so these are the guidelines. They say that metformin alone is not a good ovulation induction agent, but it works very well in combination. Now see, Shalaka, जो तुम बता रहे थे उस पड़ाव पे हम लोग आ गए हैं. ये पहला पड़ाव है और पहला पड़ाव में there is step 1 and step 2 and in step 1 in between step 1 and step 2 there is step 1b. So 1a is ovulation induction by oral ovulation, 1b is addition of adjuvants, and then you go to the step 2, and here in step 2 this is the next level treatment, and we are going to discuss this next level treatment in the next success story, and that is story of Sita and Raman. This is a long story, but I'll cut it short. 2011, summer of 2011, these were the best days in the life of Sita. Sita gets married to Raman. After 9 months, Sita decides to visit Dr. Nirmala as she is having irregular cycles and acne. She is not very much for conception. Her investigations were done. Her AMH was 11. And then the Dr. Nirmala has given her OC pills for 3 months. Okay. Then in 2014, now Sita is married since 3 years. And she again visits Nirmala. She says, now I am eager to conceive. Nirmala tries trying intercourse for 3 times. Still there is PCO. Now she goes for laparoscopic ovarian drilling. After drilling, again she puts her on CC and letrozole, but there is no result. But the AMH has gone down. Now comes 2019. And 2019 again Sita comes with the astrologer prediction that she can conceive in 2019. So this time AMH was done and it is now 3.9. Dr. Nirmala is happy. She plans IUI. She says that I'll try IUI 2 times, and in the first IUI, Sita conceives. So this is the story of Dr. Nirmala, Sita and Raman. And this story of Nirmala, Sita, Raman, happy days of Nirmala, Sita, Raman came in 2019 when she became finance minister, and our patient conceived in 2019. Happy days in the life of Nirmala, Sita and Raman came in 2019. Then I have a very specific question. This question goes to Gauri. Can we use gonadotropins as the first line treatment instead of letrozole? अब letrozole की बात छोड़ो, gonadotropins की बात करो. Can you use it as a first line treatment?
Yes, it can be used as a first line treatment.
मेरे पास पैसा है, मेरे पास गाड़ी है, मेरे पास बंगला है, मेरे पास सब कुछ है.
मेरे पास gonadotropin भी है.
Exactly. मेरे पास gonadotropins है और मेरे पास 3D sonography की मशीन है. That is important. So guidelines say that if you can use gonadotropins as a first line treatment if you have a good ultrasound machine and if you are clinically good in monitoring the patients. So Gauri is very clear. मेरे पास सब कुछ है, मैं खुश हूँ. So gonadotropins can be tried, but then the guidelines say that as far as possible, gonadotropins should be used as a second line treatment after trying overall. That is what guidelines said, but they have said that it could be used as a second line treatment if you have good machine and you are able to monitor the patient properly. Now, in case of Sita has conceived with IUI, right? Which is the best protocol for IUI and what is your protocol for IUI, and do this best protocol and your protocol they match? Rajashri.
My protocol for IUI is always I start with letrozole.
लोगों से सुना है, किताबों में लिखा है. लोगों से क्या सुना है, किताबों में क्या लिखा है, ये बताना है.
लोगों से सुना है लेट्रोजोल प्लस HMG.
परफेक्ट. किताबों में क्या लिखा है?
किताबों में लिखा है is always hyperstimulation, a little bit overstimulation of.
So Ashwin, you tell us किताबों में क्या लिखा है?
What is being taught in the textbooks is if you do IUI with gonadotropins alone, it leads to a higher success rate rather than using letrozole alone or maybe in combination with the.
So what is the name of that protocol which is mentioned in all textbooks of foreign authors?
Low dose step up protocol.
Yes, chronic low dose step up protocol. And see how they start. They start with 50. Then they continue with 50 for 14 days. After 14 days, they do ultrasound. They see whether the response is there or not. If the response is there, they continue with the same dose. If there is no response, they increase the dose by half ampoule and they continue half ampoule for 7 days. After 21 days, they again reconsider. Then if there is no response, they again increase by half ampoule. अभी हम लोग इंडियंस में आपने इकिगाई नाम का किताब पढ़ा होगा जापानीज लोगों का, जिसमें वो बोलते हैं कि 100 साल कैसे जीना है इकिगाई में सिखाते हैं. अपने यहाँ पे इतकी घाई है, इतकी घाई की इतके दिवस आपण थांबू शकत नाही. 21 डेज पॉसिबल नाही, इतकी घाई आहे. तर इतकी घाईमध्ये वी आर ऑलवेज इन हरी, सो वी हॅव दिस इम्पेशंट प्रोटोकॉल विच Ashwin and Rajashri has rightly told, and that is an impatient protocol, but we are very happy with our impatient protocol because we get good results, and we are happy because we are cutting on the time and cost both. Cost is an important factor because we are combining letrozole, so we start with 2.5 milligram BD letrozole for 5 days, 6, 7, 8 days we give HMG 75, 9:30 we start doing ovulation studies, and ultimately we do IUI. Another question is about who is a lab person. I know Ashwin is a lab person. Anybody else who is doing laparoscopy routinely in their clinical practice? And what is your role or take on laparoscopy? Laparoscopy as a treatment of PCO. What is your take?
Earlier, I was in favor of laparoscopic ovarian drilling, but of late, since last at least 5 to 6 years, I have given up.
And I know when he has started stopped doing laparoscopy, after doing more and more patients of infertility practice,
Correct.
and when you become a ART person, more of ART person and less of laparoscopic person, you realize that AMH goes down drastically.
Exactly.
And then you start rethinking that whether I should do laparoscopy or not. तो अभी इसमें कैसा है कि if you look at the guidelines say that laparoscopic ovarian drilling and gonadotropins, they are at the same level. And you can either try laparoscopy or you can try gonadotropins. They are at the same level. That means gonadotropins के साथ साथ laparoscopy को ही उतना ही weightage दिया गया है latest guidelines में. बीच में एक period ऐसा था when the people used to say that laparoscopy should not be done because उसमें क्या हुआ, इन्हीं लोगों ने लैप्रोस्कोपी को बदनाम किया है जिन्होंने इस तरह से ओवरी की छन्नी छन्नी कर दी. एंड आई विल टेल यू, आई रिमेंबर 16 साल की लड़की आई, सर्जन ने अपेंडिसेक्टोमी किया एंड विद अपेंडिसेक्टोमी ही सेड कि अरे उसकी ओवरी बड़ी बड़ी दिख रही थी, मैंने उसको ड्रिल कर दिया और ड्रिल मार दिया, तेरे तरफ भेज रहा हूँ, भी देख लेना क्या करना है. सो that is the sad part of the story, but that was the story 20 years back or 15 years back. So people started realizing that this is the problem which is creating low AMH and diminished oral reso in our patients. So you have to follow some principles. So how do you compare gonadotropins with laparoscopy? Anybody can tell this because there are advantages of laparoscopy, but you have to do it very carefully.
First of all, if you want to select a patient for LOD, the selection has to be very careful. If you do it in a very obese patient with a very high BMI and
Yes.
very high levels of androgen, obviously it is not going to work.
I think Ashwin, in the morning there was a case presentation,
Yes.
and one of the students, Shams, your student was there, and he said, rightly said that she said that we have excluded high BMI patients in our study. Then somebody, madam asked why you have excluded patients with high BMI. She said that maybe because we are little bit worried about the morbidity. So you have to think of that also.
Yes, correct. And in high BMI patients, as it is, the AMH is low as compared to the lean PCOS patients. Yes. So if you are concomitantly doing it for some tubal factor or other thing, then it is all right if you after proper selection of the case. But we are more comfortable as ART people, we are more comfortable with gonadotropin rather than going for laparoscopy because we are more comfortable with the monitoring. So that is not a problem with us. The patient
Right.
doesn't land up in hyperstimulation.
So maybe in rural setup,
yes,
laparoscopy
that-
can work.
Yes, definitely. It can work. It has
Cost
its
is
own
also
advantages.
less, but if you are a good surgeon, then you can definitely give them monofollicular
Definitely.
growth.
Definitely.
The response is also good. So you have to compare it, and you have to. It's all a clinical acumen. Then I'll not discuss this, but then I'll go to
Yeah,
the now.
but one point, Chaitanya, which
Yes,
you had
yes,
mentioned
yes.
was right below, which people must not forget, is rule of 4 and
Yes,
cooling.
I
So if
think
they are
very
going
important.
for PCO drilling, rule of 4 and cooling is something which we must
Always
actually do.
follow this rule of 4. Not more than 4 drills, and 40 is the what they say 40 watt cautery. I keep it on 25.
That's why I said don't go by this picture. This is more than 6.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Now we have come to this दूसरा पड़ाव. हम दूसरे पड़ाव पे आ गए हैं. First is ovulation induction. Second, 1B is add metformin. 2 is gonadotropins. Along with gonadotropins, same level पे laparoscopic ovarian drilling. And now we go to the next, and that is third पड़ाव. But तीसरे पड़ाव पे आने के पहले somebody would I think Anita is with us. So Anita, your take on anti-obesity drugs.
Anti-obesity drug, as an endocrinologist, what I see in my OPD, an epidemic of obesity and people struggling with their lifestyle and every change. I do promote this on a very large scale about the anti-obesity drug, because obesity is nowadays treated or considered as a diabetes or a hypertension, and this treatment needs to be continued.
Very
So
apt and to the point answer. What she is saying is obesity is considered as
as a diabetes
or a metabolic
and
disorder.
hypertension. So it should be treated. And when you reach a BMI of 25, from then onwards, I help people by adding these anti-obesity drugs. And when the BMI is more than 35 in a morbidly obese patients, yes, I do advise them or give them an option of bariatric surgery, whether they have, at least it starts mentally preparing them about their weight and the options available.
So, एक सवाल audience के लिए. The most popular drug which a celebrity NA is taking regularly. Since it's a public forum, I will not tell you what is NA, but you know celebrity NA.
Ozempic, yes. Someone said Ozempic, yes.
So yes, that is
it's a black marketed medication.
But that is a drug which. So what is your
yes.
take on that drug? Because it is becoming very popular.
It's very effective. This is like a medical gastrectomy using this Ozempic. It does help. It's weekly, it's very convenient, but the availability is a question. In a long term, it has a very big market available in India. Ozempic, whether a doctor prescribes or not, it is taken by without a doctor's prescription. So Ozempic in Akola, in my practice, because of the non-availability of the medication, I am not using, but it is said to work till 15 to 20% of weight loss, which is very, very significant, and maintenance of that. So Ozempic is a good drug, but in Indian practice, I use metformin, even irrespective of their metabolic parameters, for a weight loss, which gives around 3 to 5% of weight loss. And some patients who follow lifestyle modification along with it, they do go up to 10% of it weight loss. So metformin is the first line drug, I use it, and there are many more anti-obesity drugs. And I do give them an option to help them to conceive, because as soon as they lose weight, their ovulation rate improves like anything. Without any treatment, without ovulation induction also, they conceive.
Thank you, Anita, for that tol mol ke bol expert opinion. See, that is the difference between endocrinologist who is practicing regularly and we gynecologists, we don't know much about this.
Yes, Chaitanya, just one line that I would like to add is that with this Ozempic, and like she said, it's coming from the black market, people are getting it when they're traveling. So those who want to conceive, they should not be conceiving with the drug. So
Very
they should be
important
told that you're taking this, but then you should not conceive
I
when
think
you are on the drug.
slowly नाशिक पर्यंत आले असतील मला वाटतं ते ड्रग्स हळूहळू अकोल्याला येतील त्याच्यामुळे यू शुड नो दॅट प्लीज डोंट
There are many more in the market, and definitely it's going to capture the market. The only barrier is the cost, because the cost of it comes to around 10 to 15,000 per month. So which not many people are okay with it.
affording. Okay, and I think we have also started getting more and more patients with bariatric surgery done. So even in Akola, Nagpur, Nashik, everywhere we see many patients with bariatric
it's
surgery
now
done.
bariatric
So
surgery.
it is becoming a very
Surgeons are available in a very close nearby most of the district places.
then you have to think about emotions as well, because they have feelings too. As I said, काय लठ्ठ झाली आहे, केवढी मोठी दिसते आहे, कशी दिसते आहे, हे असे डायलॉग मारणं आता आपण सोडायला पाहिजे. यू हॅव टू बी व्हेरी केअरफुल. यू हॅव टू, बिकॉज दे हॅव फिलिंग्स टू. सो यू हॅव टू बी व्हेरी केअरफुल while you are talking to them, and you should be sensitive. And that is what guidelines also say. You have to be very sensitive while talking to them. They have feelings too, and you may take help of psychiatrist or a psychologist for the problem which they have, the problems they have. In detail, they have discussed all these factors: psychosexual function, body image, eating disorder, disordered eating, lifestyle interventions. Everything is discussed in details. So अभी अपने पास, see how perfect timing we have. 11 बजने को 5 मिनट कम है, देखा आपने? और यहाँ पे देखो 11 को 5 कम है. और हमारी लास्ट स्टोरी अभी चालू हो रही है. नथिंग सक्सीड्स लाइक सक्सेस. स्टोरी ऑफ लीना पिसे. लीना पिसे is a case of lean PCO. She is classical case. Her AMH is 7. Her BMI is somewhere around 16, 17. IUI done 6 times. History of OHSS. Important point. History of OHSS in IUI. Now we go for IVF. Plan IVF and start with FSH. So here we are on the last part of our panel discussion, and that is regarding IVF. And anybody can take this question: which is your best protocol in patients with PCO? Which is your best protocol?
Antagonist protocol with agonist trigger and freeze all.
सीधी बात, no बकवास. Antagonist protocol with agonist trigger and freeze all policy. That is all. इसमें कोई डिस्कशन के लिए जगह नहीं है. Because see, this is what happens. This is the problem of greed. You know, हमको सबको और अंडे चाहिए, और अंडे चाहिए, और अंडे चाहिए. This is the problem of greed. And a greed is so common in IVF, especially in even in IVF in ART cycles. We are so greedy that we always think that we should get more than 20 eggs. But then the problem of this more than 20 eggs is the problem of OHSS. और ये कैसा है? ये it's like a बंदूक की गोली. HCG trigger is like a बंदूक की गोली. एक बार बंदूक की गोली छुटी तो वो छुटी, फिर वो किसको जाके हिट करेगी कोई बता नहीं सकता. तो यू हैव टू यूज योर ट्रिगर वेरी केयरफुली. एंड HCG ये सबसे डेंजरस बंदूक की गोली है. एक बार तुमने HCG लगा दिया, फिर तुम्हारी वाट लग गई, फिर सिर्फ भगवान से प्रार्थना करो, बाकी तुम कुछ नहीं कर सकते. एंड फॉर दैट रीजन what Ashwin has said is the right protocol: antagonist protocol, agonist trigger and freeze all policy. विषय संपला. So आपला विषय पण इथे संपला आहे. So before I sign off, I would like to tell you one important point. Don't underestimate the power of तीन पत्ती पे पूरा खेल है. 3 A's: AMH, age and AFC. All your treatment plan depends on तीन पत्ती का खेल है: AMH, age and AFC. That's all. So this is what is the take home message. PCO is difficult nut to crack. Proper planning and patience is sure to give you rewards, and the only thing which is constant in life is change. Thank you, wonderful audience. This is the guideline 2023, old wine in new bottle. Wonderful guidelines, wonderful panel and wonderful discussion. कर्मण्ये वाधिका रस्ते माँ फलेषु कदाचन. कर्म करते रहो, फल की आशा मत करो. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the excellent discussion. You really kept us charged throughout the session. And I'm sure Yasmin, Sita, Raman, Leena are all very happy as we have discussed these cases very well. I request Chaitanya sir to felicitate our respected panelists. I request Mukesh sir to join on the stage. Mukesh Rathi sir, Arun sir. I request Mukesh Rathi sir to felicitate Chaitanya sir. I request Mukesh Rathi sir to felicitate Chaitanya sir.
शुक्रिया, आपके आने से रौनक तो बढ़ी, वरना ये महफिल जज्बात अधूरी रहती। थैंक यू ऑल।